Some stories don't start with a scream. They start with a quiet sentence that breaks something inside a child. While I was in a hospital bed, my parents and my sister looked at my 6-year-old adopted daughter and planted a fear no kid should ever carry, that she could be sent back like a misplaced item. One line, one threat. And suddenly a little girl who used to fill a room with laughter came home wearing her backpack like she was already packed to leave. Before we step in, I want us to walk in with a little stillness. Not to enjoy anyone's downfall, not to hand out verdicts, but to notice what words can do when they're aimed at the smallest person in the room. Because sometimes the deepest cruelty doesn't leave bruises. It leaves a child trying to make herself smaller so she can be loved. This is the story of what happened next, of the moment my sister screamed, "Make space for the real children," and I didn't shout back. I took action, and by the next morning the whole family lost it. Now let me tell you everything. My name is Rylan Sloan, and I'm still shaking as I say this out loud because I keep hearing her tiny voice in my head, "I can be small." If you've ever been the one trying to protect a child while everyone around you insists you're overreacting, then you already know how lonely that feels. Before I tell you everything, I just want to know you're here with me. Comment hi below or tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far a story can reach, and sometimes knowing someone is listening makes all the difference. And if you want more real, raw stories about family betrayal and the moment someone finally chooses themselves and the people they love, please subscribe. It's a small click, but it helps me keep telling the truth when it's hard. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. The smell of antiseptic still clung to my skin when the nurse clipped off my hospital band. 3 nights under observation at Memorial Health, 3 nights telling myself Maisie would be fine at my parents' house in Pooler. My husband Keaton kept saying the same thing, she was in good hands surrounded by family just for a few days. But even as we walked to the parking garage, his phone buzzed with a text from my mother, "Maisie's been an angel." I don't know why, but something about how smooth that line was made my chest tighten. We pulled into the driveway just before dusk. My childhood home looked exactly the same, warm lights glowing in the windows, neatly trimmed hedges, but I felt something shift the moment the front door opened. Maisie was standing in the hallway with her backpack already on. Her stuffed bunny's ears stuck out from the zipper like they were trying to escape. She didn't run into my arms. She didn't smile. She looked at the floor like she was waiting for someone to come collect her. My mother swept in with a smile too wide to be real. "There's our brave girl," she sang, ruffling Maisie's hair. "She's been a little angel, just perfect." I looked down at my daughter. Her eyes weren't tear-stained, but they were hollow, like she'd already cried everything out. Blair appeared from the hallway, her designer sweater, perfectly tucked hair still glossy at the end of the day. She gave me a nod that barely counted as acknowledgement. Hadley clung to her leg like a shadow, all sugar and smugness, offering me the kind of grin only a child raised to believe she could do no wrong would dare to wear. We thanked them too stiffly and left. On the ride home, Maisie didn't say much. She clutched her bunny tight and stared out the window like a passenger in someone else's life. I tried to break the silence. "Did you have fun at Grandma's?" She shrugged. Then she whispered, "Do I take up too much space?" The words sliced through me. I turned around in my seat, heart pounding. What baby? Maisie didn't answer. Her small fingers twisted the bunny's ear until the stuffing started to lump. Keaton's hands were clenched tight on the steering wheel. He didn't speak, but I saw it in his jaw. He knew. Something had happened. When we got home to Ardsley Park, Maisie hesitated at the front door. "You can put your bag down, sweetheart," I said gently. But she kept it on her back like she wasn't sure she was allowed to stay. I moved into autopilot, running a warm bath, putting on soft music, serving her favorite spaghetti for dinner. I tried to restore the rhythm we knew. But Maisie floated through the house like she didn't belong in it anymore. At the dinner table, she barely ate. Afterward, I asked her to put her bunny in the toy bin before we read stories. She froze. Her lower lip started trembling. She backed away like I was about to punish her, whispering, I'm sorry, I'll be good, I promise." Then she broke. She cried like I'd never heard her cry before. Not tantrum tears, not frustration, but raw, terrified sobbing. "Please don't send me away. I'll be good. I'll give Hadley my toys. I'll sleep on the floor. I don't need a room. I don't need space. Keaton and I dropped to our knees. Maisie, no baby, no one's sending you anywhere, I said, wrapping her in my arms. But she just kept going. Blair said I have to make space. For the real children. She said I don't belong and I'm gonna go back to the orphanage. My whole body went cold. I pulled back just enough to look at her tear-streaked face. When did she say that? Maisie hiccuped through her crying. Saturday. In the living room. Everybody heard. Nobody said no. I held her so tight I could feel her heartbeat against mine. That was the moment. Not when Blair said it, not even when Maisie repeated it. The moment was when I realized it wasn't just Blair. It was everyone. They all stood there. They all let it happen. Later that night, after Maisie finally fell asleep, clutching her bunny like a lifeline, I walked into the kitchen on legs that barely held me. My fingers trembled as I opened my phone and tapped into the family group chat, something I hadn't checked during the haze of IVs and blood work. There it was. A forwarded voicemail from Blair. I pressed play. Her voice shrill and furious. She needs to make space for the real children. And in the background, Maisie crying thin and soft and shredded. I didn't reply. I didn't call. I didn't scream. I just locked my phone, set it down, and whispered to no one in particular tomorrow morning. This ends. I barely slept. I sat on the floor outside Maisie's room most of the night, watching the shadow of her bunny ears stretch across the crack of light beneath the door. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I planned. By morning, I was calm enough to make pancakes and ask simple questions. Who said that to you, baby? Maisie didn't look up from her plate. Blair. Where were you when she said it in the living room? Everyone was there. I was coloring on the floor. And what scared you the most? Maisie's voice was barely a whisper. When she yelled. But mostly, when nobody said she was wrong. I tried not to react. I just nodded and let her eat. It unraveled slowly from there. Keaton and I pieced it together in fragments over the next hour. Blair had made Maisie sit next to Hadley all weekend, constantly comparing them. Hadley's a real niece. She looks like us. Hadley's going to inherit Grandma's piano. My mother had said nothing. My father, when Maisie started crying, had told her, just be a good girl and listen. Don't make a scene. They hadn't just allowed it. They'd built it together. When I asked about where she slept, Maisie said, the playroom. They said the nice rooms for the new baby. The real one. That word again. Real. It wasn't a slip. It was a campaign. I tucked Maisie's dance bag into the car and drove her to the studio. She still clutched her bunny even during warm-ups. When she turned to wave goodbye, her eyes didn't sparkle like usual. They just checked for my presence. After dropping her off, Keaton and I parked at a quiet coffee shop near Forsyth Park. He stirred his drink 3 times before saying, they called me while you were in the hospital, more than once. Asking if you were okay. Asking when you'd be back. Asking questions about the adoption, about paperwork. I looked up sharply. What did you say? That you were recovering and everything was fine? But I knew. The questions weren't concern. They were set up. Back at the house, I opened Maisie's backpack. Something felt off. Inside, tucked beneath her pajamas, was a zippered pouch I'd never seen. I opened it slowly. 3 neatly folded outfits. Not hers. Not packed by us. Folded by adult hands like a goodbye bag. I moved to the filing cabinet in my office. Opened the drawer where we kept legal documents. Our copy of Maisie's adoption decree was out of place, slightly bent, as if someone had pulled it out, maybe even photocopied it. My stomach dropped. They weren't just trying to scare her. They were testing the waters, seeing how far they could go. I didn't panic. I didn't storm over to their house. I called a lawyer. I looked up a therapist who specialized in post-adoption trauma. I drafted a message, 38 words. It would go out in the morning. Not a single syllable was emotional. Not one could be twisted. Later that night, Keaton walked into the room holding his phone. His face was pale. You need to see this. It was a screenshot, a text from Blair to him, dated 2 days ago. If Ryland's not stable, the family can step in. You've always been good with Hadley. And with the new baby coming, we need to think long-term. They were drawing battle lines. They weren't just trying to make Maisie leave. They were laying the groundwork to make me look unfit. To push me out of my own daughter's life. At 11:04 p.m., I parked alone outside the hospital garage. The place where it all started. The place they thought I'd be too weak to fight back from. I looked down at the unsent message glowing on my screen. Keaton's voice came from the passenger seat. "You sure about this?" "I don't need to be sure," I said, my thumb hovering over the button. "I just need to be right." And I hit send. I didn't yell, I acted. And by morning they all lost it. At exactly 7:00 a.m. I hit send. It was one message, 38 words. No emotion, no room for debate. Just a clear, cold line in the sand. Effective immediately, you are not to contact or attempt to visit Maisie Sloan. Do not come to our home. All future interactions will be documented and handled through legal counsel. This is not open for discussion. I sent it to the family group chat and exited it the moment the message delivered. I didn't wait for replies. I didn't need to hear their excuses. Silence was my final word. Downstairs, I made waffles shaped like hearts. Maisie smiled a little when I added whipped cream, but she still kept the bunny in her lap. Keaton quietly checked the door locks, reset the Ring doorbell camera, and updated the list of blocked numbers on both our phones. We moved like a team of surgeons, precise, calm, efficient. We knew what was coming. As I packed Maisie's backpack for dance class, I noticed something. A note had been slipped into one of the side pockets. It was in my mother's handwriting. "You're being dramatic. Don't let your mental state ruin your family. Think of Hadley. Think of the new baby." I didn't react. I added the note to a folder of printed screenshots and voicemails along with Blair's message from 2 nights ago, the one that said, "You'll understand what a real family means when our baby arrives." That word again. Real. Keaton was on the phone with our lawyer by 8:15. "Document everything," she said. "No contact means no contact. If they show up again, record it. Do not engage. And I'll start drafting the cease and desist letters today." After Maisie's drop-off at the studio, I called a post-adoption therapist. We scheduled a consultation for Thursday. They advised us to begin a simple, repetitive healing ritual each night, one that reminded Maisie she was safe, loved, and home. I didn't just want to stop the bleeding. I wanted to treat the wound. By mid-morning, the ripple began. My phone rang with a string of voicemails, my mother's voice thick with mock tears. "You know how much we love her. Please don't destroy our family over a misunderstanding. Your father is heartbroken. This isn't how you were raised." Then my father, curt and commanding, "Come home. Let's talk like adults. You owe us that." And Blair. Blair unleashed paragraphs. "You're unstable. Everyone sees it. I tried to warn Keaton. Now everyone's asking what's wrong with you. If you think you can keep Maisie from her family forever, you're delusional." I didn't respond to any of them. I forwarded every message to our lawyer, every tear-stained voicemail, every line of gaslighting. But the scariest part wasn't what they said. It was what started trickling in from people I hadn't heard from in years. "Hey, Ryland. Random question, did you really get held for mental evaluation at Memorial last week? Blair said they had to keep you for observation. You okay?" That's when I realized they'd already started poisoning the well. I'd spent 3 nights in the hospital for a low-potassium episode after a stomach bug, but now they were spinning it into a breakdown narrative. If this were chess, they'd move their pawns before I even sat down at the board. I called 2 old friends, people who knew me and Maisie well, one of whom lived just down the block. "I need to say something out loud," I told them. This weekend, my sister told Maisie she'd be sent back to the orphanage to make room for real children. My parents stood by. I'm not asking for gossip. I just need people to know what really happened. They listened. They believed me. And they promised they'd be there if it came to that. But the first true reckoning happened that afternoon. I had just gotten off a call with the therapist when the Ring app chimed. Motion detected at front door. I opened the video feed. Standing on my porch were Blair, Colleen, and Warren. Colleen held a bakery box. Warren had a bouquet of sunflowers. Blair, of course, had nothing but that snake oil smile. They knew I wouldn't open the door. That wasn't the point. They stood close to the camera, speaking just loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "We're just here for the kids," Blair said sweetly. "We know Ryland's under a lot of stress, poor thing. But the children shouldn't suffer." Colleen piped in with, "We brought cupcakes, Maisie loves those, right?" I hit record on the Ring app. They weren't visiting. They were performing. Keaton appeared behind me, eyes narrowing. "Want me to call the cops?" "No," I said. "Let them finish the show." They stayed 4 minutes, long enough to be noticed by Mrs. Lehman next door, who peeked through her curtain. Long enough to get caught on 3 security cameras. Long enough to make me feel like I was the villain in my own neighborhood. When they finally left, I turned to Keaton. "They chose a stage," I said quietly. "So I'm giving them an audience." By the next morning, they'd shifted gears. If Chapter 3 was a performance, Chapter 4 was their press tour. At 8:04 a.m., I received a text from my Aunt Cynthia in North Carolina. "Hey, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but is everything okay with Maisie? Colleen said there were some safety concerns and that family might need to intervene." I nearly dropped my coffee. 10 minutes later, Keaton walked in from the mailbox holding a pastel pink envelope, a card. "Inside, thinking of you. Let's talk soon. Signed, Mom." Also inside, a gift card to Target, and a $4 plastic unicorn bracelet meant for Maisie. No note for her. No apology. Just enough to claim they tried. At 10:00, I met our lawyer at a cafe near Forsyth Park. I handed her a folder packed with evidence, voicemails, screenshots, the photo of the packed bag, the video of them on the porch, the adoption decree. She looked through it all, then folded her hands. "They're not just reacting. They're premeditating," she said. "The goal isn't reconciliation, it's reputational erosion. They want to control the narrative." We laid out the plan, cease and desist letters, a timeline of harassment, a record of Maisie's school pickup and dance class routine, and next steps if CPS or any agency made contact. On the way home, I got a call from Maisie's dance studio. "Hi, Mr. Sloan. Quick heads up, someone called earlier asking if they could pick Maisie up from class this week. Said they were her aunt. We didn't confirm anything obviously, but wanted to flag it." My throat dried up. "They're trying to reach her in public places," I said to Keaton once I got home. "They're not going to stop." That night, I tucked Maisie into bed and sat with her through her bedtime story. When I kissed her forehead, she whispered, "If I'm really yours, why do they want me gone?" I couldn't lie to her. So I said, "Because sometimes people don't understand love unless it looks like them. But that's their problem, not yours. You belong here, Maisie. Not because you're perfect, because you're ours." Later, I opened an email from my mother. "I never said I agreed with what Blair said, but you're overreacting. Don't punish us all over a few words. Remember your roots." Attached were photos of baby clothes, one labeled "For Our Real Grandbaby," the other an obviously re-gifted stuffed animal for Maisie. I didn't respond. Instead, I drafted a message to a few relatives, the ones with decency. "I want to clarify what's going on before Blair spins the story. My sister told my daughter, my 6-year-old, that she would be sent back to the orphanage because she's not a real child. My parents stood by. I am protecting my daughter. That's all this is." By midnight, I'd learned Blair was already telling a different version of events, that I had threatened to return Maisie because we were expecting a biological child. A complete inversion of the truth. And then came the final hit. At 12:43 a.m., my phone rang. A robotic voice. "This is a courtesy notification. We've received a concern report regarding a child residing at this address. If you are the guardian, please prepare documentation for a follow-up within 48 hours. I stood in the kitchen, my phone buzzing in my hand, watching Maisie sleep peacefully on the couch, bunny pressed to her chest. Keaton stared at me. They really filed something. "They didn't just attack me," I said. "They went after my child." I wrote down the date, time, and caller ID. Then I looked up. They're not coming back from this. But we are. The morning began with a breath held tight in my chest. I moved through the house like someone preparing for a hurricane, not because the storm had hit, but because I knew it was coming. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a folder thicker than any file I'd kept in years. I wasn't just a father anymore. I was now an evidence curator, a crisis manager, a one-man defense team preparing for a courtroom that might arrive unannounced on my doorstep. First, I built the timeline every hour Maisie had spent in Pooler. I noted what she ate when she napped, the exact time she clung to Keaton and whispered, "Don't make me go back." I highlighted the precise moment she started using the word space, something she hadn't done before the visit. I printed out her adoption decree, her pediatric reports, her therapy intake notes, her school schedule, and a signed letter from her dance instructor documenting behavioral changes after the weekend visit. It wasn't for show, it was survival. If someone came to question my fitness as a father, they weren't walking away with assumptions. They were leaving with proof. By 10:00 a.m., the phone call came. Blocked number. Calm voice. "This is a scheduled verification call concerning a minor at your residence. Please confirm your identity. This call may be monitored. No agency name, no direct accusation. Just a carefully constructed net waiting to see how I moved." I had already practiced my responses. My attorney had drilled them into me. Maisie Sloan is my legal daughter. She is safe and currently in school. If there are any concerns, please submit them through formal legal channels. I will respond with documentation. They asked nothing else, just noted the time and ended the call. Later, Keaton found a message in his inbox from Colleen. "You've always had such a good head on your shoulders. Are you sure Ryland's okay? He can get intense. We just worry about stability, especially with another baby on the way." We didn't reply. We forwarded it to our attorney, but I could see the tremor behind Keaton's eyes. "They're trying to fracture us," I said quietly. He nodded. "They won't." By the time we picked Maisie up from dance, I had updated the front desk with her approved pickup list, me and Keaton, no exceptions. I printed our photos and handed them over. Her teacher, Miss Danny, looked uncomfortable. "Just so you're aware, someone came by earlier, said they were an aunt, wanted to say hi during class. Got upset when we turned her away." I thanked her. Then I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes after everyone left, just in case anyone else showed up. That night I handed Maisie a new laminated card for her backpack. On it, in big letters, "If I feel scared or confused, I can say I want to call my dad." It wasn't just for her safety, it was a record. A proactive measure to show I was doing everything I could to protect her emotionally, legally, physically. Still, they kept pushing. A day later, I got a call from someone claiming to be a family reconciliation counselor. The voicemail was all soft tones and false concern. "We've been asked to reach out on behalf of concerned relatives. We'd love to help restore connection, avoid legal escalation, build bridges, not walls." No name, no credentials. I recognized the manipulation. They were baiting a refusal so they could say, I was the one rejecting help. I didn't respond. I saved the voicemail. I needed air. So I arranged a meeting. A quiet table at a cafe on Broughton Street. Across from me sat my cousin Mara, one of the few who had remained neutral so far. Next to her was Eli, my oldest friend and Maisie's godparent. I didn't beg. I didn't plead. I played the voicemail Blair had left screaming, "Make space for real children." I showed them the video of Colleen and Blair on our doorstep pretending for the Ring camera. I handed over the screenshots of Blair's text to Keaton. "You don't know what Ryland's capable of. I'm worried about that little girl." Mara's face tightened. "If this is true, they're playing with fire." "It's all true," I said, "and it's going to get worse." Eli asked the question no one wanted to voice. "Do you think they're trying to take her?" I didn't blink. They don't want her. They want control of the story, of me, of how the new baby gets framed as the real start of their legacy. And Maisie doesn't fit that. He swore under his breath. Mara looked sick. "I need you both at the baby shower," I told them. "Not for celebration, for observation. If they show up, I want witnesses." They agreed. When I got home that night, Keaton was waiting with a pale face. Studio called. Someone tried again. Asked about Maisie by name. Got angry when they were refused access. Didn't leave a name. I was beyond fear. I was sharpening. They're trying to provoke us, I said. We're not going to react. We're going to document. Keaton looked at me serious. What happens if they escalate again? I didn't hesitate. Then we let them. But this time in public. This time with eyes on every move. That night our lawyer called with the final blow. If they filed a concern report, the knock could come at any time. They don't need probable cause, just enough suspicion. And once they show up, that's the story your family will tell. Ryland's under investigation. I sat on the couch while Maisie slept upstairs. Keaton placed his hand gently on my shoulder. You scared, yes. I admitted. But fear doesn't mean retreat, it means I move carefully. I looked at the calendar. Baby shower 4 days. They'll come. I'm counting on it. We drove to Pooler in silence. Maisie stayed home with Eli, coloring dinosaurs and learning how to make waffles. I didn't want her anywhere near what I was about to walk into. Colleen opened the door like we were expected. Warren was already seated in his usual chair, arms crossed stiff. Blair stood near the mantel, arms folded like a lawyer who knew she couldn't be touched. I'm not here to reconcile, I said. I'm here to clarify, and to establish boundaries you've bulldozed. Colleen blinked fast, face trembling. We only want to see our granddaughter. That's not a crime. No, I replied. But threatening to send a 6-year-old back to an orphanage is, emotionally, morally, legally. Warren scoffed. You're making a mountain out of a moment. I pulled out my phone, played the voicemail again. Make space for real children. Then I asked, who said orphanage first? Who said real children? Who stood by and said nothing? Colleen's voice cracked. We didn't mean it literally. Then what did you mean? To make her behave, she admitted. Children need structure. That's not structure. That's psychological warfare. Blair stepped forward, finally tired of the performance. She needs to know where she stands. She's not blood. You act like you're some kind of savior, Ryland, but you picked her. And you can unpick her. That's how choices work. There it was. The sentence I needed. The final nail. I'm glad you said that on the record, I said. Because it proves this was never about Maisie. It's about erasing anything that threatens your idea of a perfect family tree. Warren stood. You're trying to steal our grandchild. You gave up that right when you made her fear she didn't belong. I laid it all out, every rule. No contact with Maisie. No visits, no calls, no showing up at her studio, no messages to Keaton. All communication goes through my lawyer. You violate that, I'll escalate it legally. Colleen wept quietly. Warren stared like I was a stranger. Blair didn't flinch. On the ride home, Keaton said, they're not going to stop. I know, I said. That's why I'm done waiting for them to get tired. I'm going to give them a microphone. Let the whole family hear who they are. That night we came home to find a new alert from the Ring camera. Blair. Standing alone at the door. No cupcakes this time. No fake smile. Just her voice raised enough for every house on the block to hear. You can't keep us out forever. This isn't just your family. She was making it clear. This was war. Keaton watched me walk away from the screen, jaw set. In the kitchen, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. Attached was a photo of Maisie taken from across the street near her dance studio. Blurry, but unmistakably her. No caption, no signature, just a message. We see her. I froze. Keaton took the phone, his face going pale. We're reporting this, he said immediately. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen, the little figure of my daughter caught mid-spin in a pink tutu. Then I said, let them come to the baby shower. Let them bring their masks and their righteousness. I won't stop them. I looked at the invitation on the fridge. 2 days left. They wanted a stage, I said softly. But this time they're getting the spotlight too. The party was supposed to be light. baby blue balloons, a paper banner saying, "Welcome little one," Maisie's small feet running between guests offering paper cups of lemonade. On the outside, it looked like any other baby shower. But I wasn't here to celebrate. Not entirely. I was here to end something. Keaton and I had spent days preparing not for cake or gifts, but for what we both knew was coming. We'd set up cameras, confirmed our lawyer was on standby, assigned my closest friend to watch over Maisie in case we needed to move quickly. We had no surprises planned, only contingencies. Maisie had helped blow up the balloons herself. Her cheeks were red hands, sticky from frosting she kept swiping from the cake before we told her to wait. She wore a pale yellow dress and had insisted on wearing her grown-up clip in her hair. When a guest asked her if she was excited to be a big sister, she lit up like a firework. And then the doorbell rang. I didn't flinch. I just looked at Keaton and nodded. He went to the monitor. 3 dots on the screen. Colleen Warren Blair. They were holding a gift bag and a bakery box, dressed like this was their home, like they belonged here. Blair made sure to stand where neighbors could see. Her eyes flicked between camera lenses and windows. She wasn't here for Maisie. She was here for optics. I didn't open the door, not yet. I watched them for a moment, Blair straightening her blazer, Colleen adjusting her smile. I told Keaton they're not leaving until someone lets them in, and someone did. An older relative, meaning, opened the door with a soft, "Oh, there you are." Colleen swept in first. We couldn't miss our grandbaby's big day. Her voice was high and sweet, but her eyes darted straight to the living room. Warren followed, silent and brooding, giving quiet disapproval by default. Blair was last. Her phone was in her hand, already recording, hidden poorly behind a bouquet. They infiltrated like smoke, first lingering, then spreading. Colleen found a group of guests and quietly said, "Of course this baby's different. It's blood. That's special." She said it like she was stating a recipe. Blair added, "It's nice when it's real family. You know, the kind that belongs." I didn't respond. Not yet. I needed them to keep going. Then they spotted her. Maisie was coloring quietly in the corner. Colleen called her over. "Sweetheart, come say hi to Grandma." She held out candy like a trap. Maisie looked at me. She didn't move, just clutched her bunny tighter. "Maisie, it's okay," I told her gently. "Go with Aunt Leah, sweetheart." My friend took her hand, led her to the back room we'd prepared with her favorite things. I didn't pull her across the floor. I didn't yell, because I didn't need to. Then it happened. A guest crouched beside Maisie before she left and said warmly, "I bet you're excited to be a big sister." And Blair, standing a few feet away, tossed the grenade. "She's not really a sister. Let's be honest. She's not a real sister." The room froze. You could feel it, the air left, the temperature dropped. Every smiling face dropped their mask. A cousin who'd been neutral until now turned and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Did you just say that in front of a 6-year-old?" Colleen fumbled. She didn't mean it, but it was done. I stepped forward. "You just proved everything I've said is true." My voice wasn't raised, it was flat, controlled, final. "This is my home. You are no longer welcome. Leave. Now." Blair's voice pitched up. "You're manipulating everyone with your pregnancy. You're painting us as monsters." Another guest cut in. "No one has to paint anything. We heard what you said." Colleen began to cry. Warren tried to speak, but the crowd had already shifted. The sympathy was gone. The performance was over. Keaton stood beside me like a wall. "You heard him. Leave." I gave them one more line. "Any further contact will go through our attorney." They didn't walk out with pride. They slinked. The camera at the door caught every frame. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't know. A message, "You just destroyed your family." I forwarded it to our lawyer without blinking. But the real moment, the one that cracked something deep, was when Maisie returned from the back room, looked at me and whispered, "Do I still have to make space?" I knelt down. "No, baby. You don't make space for anyone. You are the space. This is your home." I didn't wait. By 8 a.m. the next morning, I had already sent the entire compilation to our attorney. The voicemail from Blair screaming about real children, the party footage, the guest testimonies, the threatening text. It was all laid out, logged, time-stamped. Our lawyer moved fast. A formal cease and desist went out before noon. No contact with Maisie Keaton or me at homeschool or any known activity. No communication with her school or studio. Any violations would be documented in pursuit of a restraining order. This wasn't revenge. This was closure. This was safety. Next, I made calls. The dance studio, her school, the counselor. I gave them new pickup protocols. Verified ID only. Call me if anyone showed up asking questions. Keaton upgraded the cameras. I asked our trusted neighbor to keep an eye out for any unfamiliar cars. Everything was locked down, quiet, secure. And then came the fallout. Colleen called me sobbing. We just want one more chance. She didn't apologize to Maisie, just to me for how it looked. Warren texted, "You've embarrassed the family." Blair, of course, exploded online. Posted some cryptic apology about words taken out of context. Claimed we twisted everything. But people had heard. They'd seen. And this time no one rushed to defend her. Then something unexpected happened. An aunt who'd believed them for years messaged me privately. I heard what she said at the party. "I'm sorry. If you need me to speak up, I will." The tide had turned. Maisie, meanwhile, had one more question for me. She pulled at my sleeve that evening. "Can I put my backpack somewhere?" I showed her a new hook we'd installed by the door. "This is just for you." We sat down together. She chose a sticker. We labeled it Maisie's Spot. Then we drew a sign for her room that said, "You belong here." That weekend we went to Forsyth Park. Same bench, same trees. I asked her, "Do you feel like you're taking someone's place?" Maisie shook her head firm. "No, this is my place." That was the only victory I needed. Later that night, Keaton and I reviewed the final letters. We added a list of approved people into our custody file. People who respected our daughter not because she was adopted or biological, but because she was human. Because she mattered. I stood in her doorway as she slept, bunny in hand, backpack on the hook, breathing deep, safe. She'd survived what no child should endure, and I'd done what every parent should. I didn't wait for them to understand. I protected her anyway. And finally, she was home. When a story like this ends, it doesn't really end with a slammed door or a final message on a screen. It ends in quieter places. In the way a child finally takes her backpack off without flinching, in the way a home starts to feel like home again. And maybe that's the only kind of win that ever matters. Because when we strip the drama away, what's left is simple: a kid who wanted to belong and an adult who finally chose protection over permission. If there's anything to carry with us, it's this: sometimes the most human thing we can do is refuse to make someone smaller, just so the room feels comfortable. We don't have to turn people into villains to set boundaries, and we don't have to harden our hearts to be firm. There's compassion, and then there's access. Not everyone deserves both. If you made it this far, thank you for sitting with me. And if you'd like to be part of a space where stories like this get heard, where people show up, listen and share without judgment, subscribe and stay close. If you want, leave a few lines in the comments, just hi or where you're listening from, or a moment in your life when you had to protect what mattered. I read more than you think. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you in the next story.